Greetings and salutations! It is I, Professor Macabro, accompanied here, like always, by the lovely zombie Wesitos. Yes, indeed! And we are here to regale you with a little bit of a rabbit hole of documentaries that Professor Macabro, me, saw last weekend. Unfortunately, your old friend and pal, Professor Macabro, came down with a very bad cold. It was raining the week before, and Professor Macabro got drenched, and he fought the best he could, but he got a little sick, unfortunately, last week. So I was ridden in bed, suffering the effects of this cold. Thankfully, it was just a cold and not one of the other many variations of the plague that are going around. So, as I lay in bed, I popped up TUBI and I went into a deep rabbit hole looking at documentaries, indeed. I started with one documentary and it kind of spiraled into seeing a whole bunch of them, which is great. Great interesting topics that were discussed in that one, and I wanted to share with you, because I'm that kind of guy. So yes, if you have TUBI, I highly recommend you check out these documentaries because they're fun. They're very interesting, and they talk about, well, at least the ones I saw and I'm going to talk about, they talk about different subjects that I will share right now. So the first one that started this deep dive into the rabbit hole of TUBI documentaries is one called Movie Hoarders, VHS to DVD and Beyond. The description says that this documentary captures the intense passion of movie lovers and collectors who showcase their massive amount of DVDs and VHS tapes in their homes. This was probably done during COVID. I'd have to double check the date. Probably not, but it seems like it might have been because everyone's talking at their home and showing off their collection. This talked to me because, as you can see, I'm a bit of a collector myself. Yes, I do so love collecting movies and buying these really obscure and weird movies. I must confess I do have to cut back on the blind buying because I do have quite a few of these blind buy movies. But at the same time, I don't want to because that's how I discover these weird, bizarre gems that I do so love. So, mostly because I'm running out of space, you see. I might have to buy another house or build another room to store all these wonderful movies that I own. But, yes, I do consider myself a bit of a DVD collector / hoarder. But this was fun. They were talking about how they love collecting media. Some of them, it was the case with my household. When they bought a tape recorder, they would pop in a VHS tape and record movies out of TV. And some of them would edit the commercials out. Some of them would leave them on. And actually, some of those commercials, a lot of people are hunting out for because, they don't replay those anymore. So, very, very interesting. And of course, I got into collecting VHS as well. But then when DVD came around, I unfortunately purged a couple of the VHS tapes that I had. I still kept a few, but I did purge a lot. Because DVD, well, it was smaller packaging. I fell into that. Smaller packaging, special features. It just seemed better, but I do wish I would have kept a couple of those VHSs. Yes, indeed, especially for the price that some of them are going for. But yes, very, very, do enjoy the VHS format. But again, as you can see, I'm more of a DVD collector. And then there's your Blu-rays and your 4Ks and your boutique ballers that buy all these boutique labels. And they also talk about how physical media is dying, and even though it's not, because it's still around, thankfully. But yes, this was very interesting, and I quite enjoyed that one. The other one that I saw is VHS Love, Cult Cinema Obsession. This one's done by the same person that did the Movie Hoarders. It even showcases a couple of people. In one of these, I think it was the movie collector, Jay Bond from Bloodbath and Beyond, pops up at the beginning, which is why I saw that one, because I do follow Jay Bond and his Bloodbath and Beyond, even though he hasn't posted content in a while. I saw him and I was like, I know that guy. This is interesting. So I started watching him. Sean C. Phillips, Cool Duder. It's a producer credit. And he also pops up because he's a big movie collector as well. And Cinema Cygnus, it's another name I forgot to mention, is also in the movie hoarder collection. They're big collectors, and Cinema Cygnus's collection is impressive. I will never have that amount of movies, mostly because I don't have the space for it. But if I ever build a bigger room to keep my stuff in, I'll probably fall into that rabbit hole. But he has laser discs and Blu-rays and a whole bunch of stuff. If you haven't seen Cinema Cygnus, check him out. He's really cool. But VHS Love Cult Cinema Obsession, it says, what has inspired collectors and fans alike to become so obsessed with VHS tapes? This documentary talks to enthusiasts for the inside scoop. And it's also something that I could relate. Again, much like the movie hoarders, they talk about how they would record movies from TV, or they would make backup copies from stuff that they would find, and how they would trade. Just because there was no internet at the time. There was not even video stores were a thing until much later on. And, if you, hey, I have this movie. What do you have? Oh, I have this movie. Oh, want to trade? And you would trade, and that's you would discover things. And it was a good time. Then, of course, when I was a kid, the DVD rental stores came up. We had something called Video Centro here in the grand old country of Mexico, and eventually Blockbuster came in, and a lot of mom and pop. Video Cri was another one that I would rent VHS tapes, and it was a lot of fun to rent something. You would rent a VHS tape, a video game, and you would have your movie watching stuff secured, and then you would have your video game stuff secured. And God help you if either one of those was garbage, because you had them for the full weekend. But still, it was a lot of fun, and I really do miss those times. Oh, I really do. So this one talks about how people collect VHS and how it's the superior format. Most akin to film because it has that magnetic strip, whereas DVD is just a case. And it's a very interesting look at the VHS format. What was the other one I saw? I saw another one afterwards called VHS Lives, a schlockumentary. The golden age of home video may be over, but VHS is still very much alive for these dedicated fans, collectors, and low-budget filmmakers. This one also touches upon a lot of the other things touched upon, and how the video store came up and everything, but it also has the shot on shitio wave, where people, once cameras became a thing, they would record their own home movies and then sell them to mom and pop rental stores, and then people would find them. Now, this was very interesting because of that, the shot on shitio thing, and how it was a thing that's no longer. Well, I suppose it still kind of is. If an independent movie maker can find an outlet to distribute his movies, it's still a thing. There's a lot of indie filmmakers that still do their stuff. So this was also very interesting. I quite enjoyed that one. What was the other one I saw? Speaking of which, I saw direct-to-video, straight-to-video horror of the 90s. This is specifically focused on that shot on shitio movies, how people would record themselves making their movies, and then they would sell them at the mom and pop store because they were looking for content, or sometimes, legend goes, that they would rent out a movie and then record their movie and film it and everything, and put it back on the case, so that when another person rents, I don't know, Ghostbusters, they would rent Ghostbusters, and the tape would have this independent movie. And that was a thing. So this is specifically for the direct-to-video craze that happened back in the day. And very, very interesting how that was. And you can still find some of those. TUBI has a couple of those shot-on-video movies. And you can also find a few on DVD and VHS, of course. DVD especially because they got official releases later on. But this was also a very, very interesting documentary. I quite enjoyed that one. Let's see. The next one I saw is VHS Nasty. An in-depth look at the censorship within horror films that shook not only Britain in the early 1980s, but the world into a panic of frenzy. We didn't have anything like that in the grand old country of Mexico. No censorship here. Sexual things have always been taboo, and that's always been hush, hush, hush. But violence, hell, we even got the unedited release of Dragon Ball, where you could see a lot of weird shit cartoons. Boy, that was some messed up stuff that was showcased on Dragon Ball, but no one threw a fit. It's a cartoon, no, whatever. Even though looking at it as an adult, I'm like, oh, sweet mother, McGinnicuddy. Even Sailor Moon, we had the unedited thing where the two Sailor Scouts are open lesbians. So, yeah, we didn't have any censorship. We weren't too faux-pas on all that kind of shit. Only the truly, really sexual things are frowned upon in the grand old country of Mexico. But, violence, not so much. But there's still the stigma that, oh, you like horror movies, you must be some kind of weird freak, which is something that Professor Macabro grew up and still does here in Mexico. But, yes, we didn't have any censorships, and there was nothing like the video nasty list that was in Britain. And the only thing that did is that it made people curious. It always happens. There's this person that has way too much free time on their hand, and they're like, oh no, look at this violent movie, a killer Santa Claus, or what have you. Think of the children! And they want to be the white saviors of the world and want to ruin everyone's fun by censoring something or boycotting it or, oh, fuck off! Just, if you don't like something, don't fucking watch it! But don't go around telling people what to do with their lives. Jeez! The only thing I do agree is that there are certain things that children should not be exposed to, even though I was, and I turned out perfectly normal indeed. Ain't that right, honey bunch? Yes, indeed. So, but there are certain things that I do agree that kids should not watch because it might mess them up. But to impose your will and let's ruin the fun for everyone else, oh, fuck off with that. Fuck off indeed. And that's what happened with the video nasty list. Everyone was so curious about these forbidden films, which nowadays some of them are still pretty hardcore, but they're kind of tame by some of the other stuff. Even the list was revoked after, well, shit, society is so fucked up, and there's been so much worse afterwards that the video nasty list is, not that nasty anymore. But this was a very interesting look at how a couple of uptight people with rods up their ass took it upon themselves to tell people what to do, and it's very, very sad that that happened. The other one I saw is Greetings from Tromaville. I do so enjoy trauma movies. Big fan of them. So this was a documentary focusing on the good people of Troma, and I was all in for that. I watched it. Follow the 40-plus year run of cult comedic horror films that came out of the world's longest-running independent film studio, Troma Entertainment. If you're a fan of Troma, I highly recommend you give this one a watch. It's good fun. It has a lot of interviews, showcases a lot of movies, good stuff. Let's see, I'm not forgetting anyone. Let's see, Video Nasty, VHS, Hoarders, Strong Direct-to-Video, Greetings from Tromaville. Ah, yes, the last one I saw. 42nd Street Memories. This was during the heyday of New York, when New York was not a place there are certain places in New York you would not want to visit. Spawned, of course, the whole Death Wish thing, because it was a cesspool of crime and other stuff. And this one says, the story behind the rise and fall of New York's 42nd Street. The cinemas, the films, the people, the crime, and the rebirth of the block. This goes into how they had a lot of grindhouse theaters that where shady things would happen inside. You would either get mugged if you went to the bathroom, or there was a lot of women of the night that was like, oh, you want to watch a movie and get a happy ending? Well, let's go! And you would watch a movie and get a happy ending at the theater. But it also led to a whole lot of stuff that happened. A lot of crime and a lot of, evil things. This one also has Uncle Lloyd Kaufman is in this one, and 42nd Street Pete. If you don't watch 42nd Street Pete, he has a YouTube channel under that name. And he's a really cool guy that I was introduced to thanks to Radiodrome, which Good Bad Flicks and the Cinemasochist hosted there for a while, and they had him as a guest, and he sounded like a really cool guy. Then I discovered he has a YouTube channel, and I've been watching his videos ever since. He talks a lot about grindhouse stuff. Really, really interesting dude. This documentary follows a lot of people that lived through that and actually went to the movies during that time, and how, you know, they would talk about how they were 15 years old and they just wanted to watch this really cool horror movie that wasn't available anywhere. So they would sit there and they would see all this crazy shit happening. So it's very, very interesting documentary. Highly recommend that one as well. But yes, I did see two more, VHS Massacre and VHS Massacre 2. But unfortunately, I saw those when I was in my lowest point of my fever cold segment. So I don't really remember what happened in those two. You'll see. But yes, I'm sorry I can't talk about those. I'll have to rewatch them and then properly give them a watch and to see what happened in that one, because I don't remember jack shit about them. But if you have a chance to watch those documentaries, they're very interesting. I particularly like the movie collecting one, the 42nd Street memories, the trauma one, the history of direct-to-video, the video nasties. I didn't live through that, so I didn't know much about it, except from what I've heard from fellow people here on YouTube. But very interesting content, very interesting documentaries that I recommend you give a watch indeed. So, let me know if you've seen any one of those documentaries, and what do you think about them? Let us know in the comments down below. But until we see you all again next time, this has been Professor Macabro. That is my ever lovely zombie huesitos. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and watching us, and wishing you all, like always, a good evening.